In the chat, in a few, you will see that how we're going to introduce ourselves today. So today we want you to think of an adjective that describes you using the first letter of your name. So my partner and I, Dawn, are going to put how we want to introduce ourselves right now. I am Comical Carla.
I'm Delightful Dawn.
And so thank you. Miss Milton, is your name, is it Saki? All right, nice. And we have Rosalia, good morning. We have Alicia, good morning. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, Terry. Good morning, Leslie. Thank you for coming today. Oh, adventurous Elise. Is it Alicia or Alicia?
It's Alicia.
Mute your mic if you can and let us know. I like to pronounce names properly. We have Michelle in the chat. So Michelle, thank you for coming. We have you, Yvonne.
Alicia.
Thank you. So what we want you to do is as you're coming in right now, we want you to put your name in the chat and have you describe an adjective that goes with your name. So we have Timeless Terry, we have bold. Oh, how do we say that? Is that Belen or Belen?
Yes, that's correct.
The first way I said it or the second?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Belen. Yes.
Belen, yay!
Yes.
Right, thank you. Thank you. Like I said before, we like to make sure we know everyone's name, and we're so happy that you're here today. So as people are coming in, we're gonna go ahead and get started with our presentation. All right, so my name is Comical Carla. I'm Carla Allen. I've been in education for 16 years. I have moved to Texas 9 years ago, and I am a teacher at Del Valle High School. I teach students in the career path that want to be teachers, and I also teach Algebra 1 as the special ed teacher. One thing about me, my personality profile is ENFP, which means I am an extrovert. I love people, being around people. I am intuitive. I am a feeler, and I want to let you know my feeler status is well over 50%, and I am also perceptive. So those just a little bit of things about me as we move forward in this presentation today so that you'll know a little bit more about who I am.
Okay, and I'm Dawn Hunter. I have a background in mechanical engineering, and currently I work at the Texas Advanced Computing Center, which is part of UT Austin, in the education and outreach group focusing on outreach and recruitment. I first started working in education for pay in 2009. I started working in preschools and after school programs, and my Myers-Briggs is an INTJ. I'm an introvert, intuitive, thinking, and judging.
All right. Miss Morgan, I saw you unmute your mic. Were you going to give us the correct pronunciation of your name?
Yes, it's Alicia.
Alicia, thank you. Thank you so much. During this workshop, we want you we wanted to create some norms. And so our norms for today is we would like you to participate 100%, even if you don't feel like it. We'd like you to use the raise hand icon, which is down here in the chat area. I think it's blue, and sometimes it might say clap if you need clarification or need to ask us something quickly. We would like you to be respectful of everyone else's opinions. And then right now, we want to give about 45 seconds. We want you as a group, what is one word that comes to mind that you would like to add to our norms? So we want you to think about that. What is one thing that as we're here together, what is one word you would like us to add to our norms?
Okay, I see we have being open, grace, safe space, inquiring, share, empowered, accepting, open. It's a second open I saw.
All right. So we see open in a lot, and I see safe space. So if you, this is what I'm going to say, and if you agree with the comment that I'm about to say, you can give us a like or a yes down there. What I was thinking is, let's go with safe space. So within a safe space, we can be open, right? In a safe space, we can be accepting. All right. In a safe space, we are able to share. And in a safe space, we will feel empowered. So I think safe space will give us all of those together. Give us a thumbs up if you agree with that. Thumbs down if you don't. All right, I see a lot of thumbs up. Thank you so much. So we're going to move on. Thank you so much for participating. We wanted to share our objective with you today. So our objective for this workshop is that during this workshop, we're going to do a variety of strategies. And we want you to build authentic relationships that you can use for engagement with your particular program or whatever edifice that you have. So that's what we want to do. So at the end of the workshop, we have about 3 questions. And this is what I do with my students. It's called a success criteria. How do we feel successful at the end of a workshop or at the end of our time together? What are some things that we want you to be able to answer? So at the end of the workshop, we would like you to answer 1, 2, or even all 3, whatever you feel comfortable with. So with that being said, do you understand the importance or why? So that's one thing we're going to talk about that today. And how does that tie into authentic relationships? Did this workshop answer your question? So my partner Dawn had put a question in the chat as I'm talking. If you can answer that question, that'd be great. Why did you choose this workshop to come to? The other thing, is there a strategy that you learned today that you could use to build your relationship, your program quite quickly? Like something you'd be like, I can take this today. You know what? I can actually implement it tomorrow. So that's what we wanted you to look at today. So we want you to take about 45 to 55 seconds right now. What are some things that you would like? Why did you Why did you choose this particular workshop to join? And even as we go to the next slide, you can still answer those questions as we're going to the next slide. Thank you so much.
And I just want to quickly, of course, talk about girls. So we're here with the Texas Girls Collaborative mission, and we want to make sure that everyone knows that all girls are different. And the reason that I say that is because although Carla and I both are from Michigan, we actually didn't meet until we moved here to Texas. We actually grew up not too far from each other in Michigan, but we met in our 30s, but we're still very different people. She's definitely an extrovert. I'm an introvert. When we're around each other, we definitely can feed off of each other. And I do sometimes display extrovert tendencies. But again, you may see me more reserved. You may see that I'm a little bit, or I am different than Carla. So try to make sure that you always remember everyone's different. There's not a, if you will, one size fits all. Just making sure also that we pay attention to the different backgrounds that people have. I've been listening to a book, Talking with Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell, and he just talks about how so many times we have different backgrounds, and because of our different backgrounds, we tend to misinterpret what somebody's meaning or what someone is saying. So I just thought of a quick example. So I had a coworker that invited me to their wedding, and they asked me for my address. So when I gave them my address, I gave them my P.O. box. And we had a conversation later, but the person had thoughts about why I had a P.O. box. So in the chat, real quick, we'll only give about 30 seconds or so. Why would you think that I would have a P.O. box? And this would, again, just maybe 30 seconds. It doesn't have to be long. You can do a 1 word, doesn't have to be sentence form. For privacy, for my safety. And that's usually what people think, privacy, safety. And that's what the person thought. They said, oh, you're doing that because you don't want me to know, where I live or where you live. And honestly, I did it because when I moved to Texas, I moved around every year. So for my first probably 7 years, I probably had 5 different apartments because it was cheaper for me to move every year. I would save at least $100 in rent. And so I constantly was moving. And so it was easier for me to create and just pay $100 for a PO box for the whole year instead of actually changing my address for all my bills and different magazines and things. So that to me was a good example of making sure you get to know a person. And if you have a question, ask them. I was so happy when she said, "Oh, did you do that because you're scared of people knowing where you live?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, honestly, you can go on the internet. I can find anybody's address and probably how much they make, who they're married to. And it's not that big of a deal as far as, at least for me. But again, make sure you answer or ask questions. This was just a quick research information that I found, and it says that Black girls as young as 5 years old are seen as less innocent than other races and ethnicities at 5. So make sure that you're, I say, putting in check your biases or recognizing that you have biases, because that a 5-year-old is a 5-year-old regardless of their race or ethnicity.
Right.
Next is just
So I just want to step in real quickly, Dawn. I just want to say we are seeing what you're putting in the chat. We did learn something earlier about how we can save the recordings or what's in the chat, and we'll upload that. But I like how some of you said my group needs to build more relationships. Relationships are key, and also developing relationships to help bridge those gaps. So we do see those comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla, for pointing that out. Again, my name is Dawn Hunter. I tend to tell people I love people. So what do I do for a living? I get to love on people and encourage people. And honestly, people that know me will tell you I really do love talking with people. During our summer camps at TAC, we actually give out what we call characteristic stickers. In the characteristic stickers, we probably have about 60 to 70 positive words that are pre-printed. It says things like determined, driven, goal-oriented, focused, it may be playful, and all of these different stickers are so that we can pass them out to the students to remind themselves of who they are. So if they're in the middle of a project or at the end of the project, we may walk up to them and say, "Hey, we want to give you this sticker for determined because we saw that you were struggling with that problem, but you didn't quit and you didn't give up." They talk about why so few. There's the book Why So Few by, it's the American Association of University Women that they published, and they talk about the growth mindset and just making sure that we're teaching the students to be confident. So, hey, you're determined, and just like you were determined on this problem, you can be determined in all of these other different areas as well. So to encourage you to succeed and to be successful. And the reason that I chose this for my quote was because, again, I think everybody is great. I just think you just need to get to know people and recognize a fish wouldn't be great if you judged it on its ability to climb a tree. But if you watched it swim, you would say it swims so gracefully. So make sure that you look at people in their own spaces.
Okay, so like I told you before, I've been teaching for 16 years. And so one of my educational heroes is Ron Clark. And he started off his session always with his kids that we're family. Well, I teach teenagers. And so I was like, oh, if I go in with the family, it might go in the wrong direction. So I was like, oh, but most of my kids are either in band or they're in a robotics club or they're also or in art club. So I said, well, teamwork makes the dream work. So I use that as my foundation for us to start building relationships. So we do a variety of things of team building activities. But I wanted to push myself. I saw that my students would work very well together as a team and they would accomplish goals and they respected each other, right? Because that was an expectation that I set for them. But I found this quote by Valle and I was like, wait a minute, we do respect each other. And we're doing a great job with that. And we are completing our goals. But what about the care and the trust? I noticed when I gave them certain activities to do, depending on who they would work with, that trust level wasn't there and that care wasn't there, right? So I started to say, okay, I need to, change my focus of my why. I know I want my kids to work together in a nice group, but I really want to focus on when we're doing these things, I want us to have more care for each other. I want us to have more, even more respect, but more trust. And how can we build that in a classroom, which like in my situation, I'm with my students for 177 days. So it's a lot different than when you have programs that are cut short, like I'm just here with a week or just a few days. But the things that I have seen used over time, you will notice that they will work in every situation. Okay. Okay, right now. So we want to do a little activity with you that we're going to have a breakout session. So what we're going to end up doing is that you are going to be broken out into groups of 3 or 4. And what we want you to do in your groups, we want you to introduce yourself with your descriptive name. And then we have 2 questions that we would like you to choose between. You're not going to discuss both. You're going to choose one of those questions. And remember, we told you at the beginning that we're going to be talking about that why makes sense. So one of the questions is, what is the for your program? Or you can choose to talk about what is your why within your program. So that's the difference, right? So we're going to give some examples. So we're going to go in alphabetical order once you get into your breakout rooms. So I would go first, right? I am Comical Carla, so I would go first. And so Dawn is going to show you, because then she would go next if we were in a group. And then she's going to show you how we would answer choice 1 or choice 2.
And I would say I'm Delightful Dawn. And the why for my program is we want to expose students to high performance computing. We definitely focus on Hispanic and Black students. The why for me within my program is because I get to encourage students to try, explore, and to be great. So those would be my whys. And you can pick from either the why for your program or the why for you within your program.
All right. Before we break you out into your groups, I would like Timeless Terry, if you can unmute your mic and just kind of give us what you heard of what you're going to do in your group, if that will be okay.
Yeah, so we're going to choose either to share our why for our program that we work with or our personal why within that program.
Right. And how are you going to start the meeting?
Alphabetically, so I'm really advantaged with Terry Wood. I'm going to be at the very end.
All right. Thank you so much, Timeless Terry, for re-clarifying what we're going to do in the groups. And so right now we are going to come to your groups and we'll be popping in.
Hopefully everyone saw the message for breakout room. Not seeing anyone move, so apparently I hit something incorrect.
Yeah, it's not sending us.
You hit open at the bottom of the little box, little screen that pops up. Open breakout rooms. Once you
Yeah, I hit that. Let me stop sharing. And that's where it is. My apologies. I didn't realize I had to switch back to the other screen. Oops. My apologies for not sending a 1-minute broadcast. When we did our practices, I did not practice the actual breakout session. So my apologies. So we do want to have a couple of the groups share out. So if you would like to share, feel free to unmute yourself and we'll have you introduce yourself, tell us your adjective, your name, and then tell us some of the things that your group spoke about. Anyone? I don't see anyone unmuted yet.
We didn't get
Miss
to
Milton
finish
did.
We didn't get to finish ours, Dawn. I got talking after Leslie went. So I'd love for Leslie to share hers though, because she was the only one that got to go.
Well, actually, we would like you to share Leslie's. So you got to hear Leslie's, correct?
Mhm.
So if
So,
you don't mind, share Leslie's.
okay, likable Leslie.
Okay.
Likable Leslie, who just finished her master's. She works for a nonprofit that obviously to bridge equity or bring equity to in STEM, gender equity in STEM. And she does this work. It's important to her. Her why is because she comes from a social justice background and, you know, understands the you know, the challenges, right, that we face and the disparities, and wants to apply that and transfer that into STEM. Leslie, I hope I summarized it correctly, but you say it better than me. Okay.
And that was great. I mean, I'm glad that you were able to summarize what she said. It shows how you were like listening and engaged. And it sounds like, yes, I probably cut you guys off a little short, but that it was interesting that you were able to stick with and listen to what she had to say. And again, relating it back to your own personal experiences. Anyone else want to share from their group?
Can we have adventurous Alicia share out?
Hi. There were only 2 people allowed to share in our group because we ran out of time. So I shared and Allison. So I said I was adventurous Alicia because I was talking about how you make career transitions and things don't exactly work out. So the adventure is trying out things new and getting students, or, you know, in the K through 12 or the workforce, to realize how you can do that, and using my own personal experiences to empower them and others in conversation.
Nice. Thank you so much. So the reason why anytime we do our why, so Dawn understood why we wanted you to do this. When we planned it at the beginning, we had more time, and then we found out later our time was going to be cut short. So that's why we're kind of feel like it's a little bit, and we would like you to spend more time in your groups. But anytime you do something, an activity, anytime you have the kids do something, understand why you're doing it, even if the kids might not understand. One of the things that we want to know is that when you're in smaller groups, what happens when kids are in smaller group? They're more apt to talk, right? Instead of in a bigger group. What's another thing that kids might do? You learn a lot about kids when you ask them to describe themselves with a letter. You can do it with the first name of a letter, or you can just say, describe yourself with an adjective. Another thing that we did that for is because it helps us learn names. Like I know likable Leslie now because I'm going to have word association. I'm going to have word association with adventurous Alicia, right? So it's going to bring me understanding my students a little bit more and in a quicker way. They don't know what I'm assessing and what information I'm grabbing, but I know why I'm doing it.
And just to add to that is we all need cheerleaders. We all need someone that can encourage us and root us on throughout the process. Sometimes people don't have confidence in themselves, but that's where we can come in and root them on, be their cheerleader, encourage them to be awesome, to be great, to do magnificent things, whatever it is that they want to do.
Okay. So the piggyback off of that, why are whys important? If you have a circle and you just ask kids, whatever program that you're in, or even like in one of my classes, my kids got to choose me. But when I teach math, they don't get to choose. So the whys are very different. I am here because my mama told me. I am here because if I don't come, I'm gonna get in trouble. I am here if I have too many absences, you're gonna call my house, and then they're gonna have to call my parent. Like, they have a whole list. So even though I have those whys, I still want to know, because that lets me know which students that I'm gonna have to I don't want to say bribe them, but get them more excited about algebra, get them more excited about math, right? And I always tell them, you might hate it today, but when you end this course with me, you will have learned and you might like it a little bit more. It won't be a hate, right? And so that's my goal, is to spark into them, this is a new subject. It might be challenging to you, or somebody might have damaged you along the way before you got to me. So I'm there to support. The next thing we're going to talk about, we're here about relationships. So why are relationships important? So one thing that we want to do with you right now in the chat, when you hear the word relationship, what is the first word that comes to mind? What is the absolute first word that comes to mind when you hear the word relationship?
I see trust, I see relate, people, important, relate, connectedness, support, connection,
And
express
relating with
care,
people, express
loyalty.
care, listening. Great. You guys did an awesome job. See, that first word that came to mind, what's happening. So when you're building relationships, think about, what is it that you want? I know when I hear the word relationship, and in my room, I want community. I want honesty. I tell the kids, I want to the point, even if it hurts my feelings, but I can deal with honesty any day of the week than you lying to me. Because now every time you say something, I'm going to second guess what you said. But if you tell me the truth, even if there's a consequence behind it, we can get through it. Another thing, you guys talked about being open. What is that about being open? What does that mean? You want them to have open minds? Do you have an open mind? Right? You have to, what you want, you have to be able to implement and emulate and model, right? You can't ask for things from others if that's something that you don't want to get out of your comfort zone to do as well. So we have to think about, and relationships, if you think about it, it really means we have to be vulnerable. So that takes a lot, right? Because what do I really want the kids to see? We talked about authentic relationships, right? And to be authentic, I'm going to tell you, with teenagers, they smell fake mile away. They know when you're real, they know when you're fake. And even if you have a bias, like I tell the kids, even with difficult subjects, I actually tell them, hey, I don't actually agree with that, but let me think about it a little bit more. I'm glad that you were able to share that with me, because it opens up my tunnel vision of how I see things, right? And to teach kids how to relate to each other and communicate with differences, you can't beat that. We might be different, but respect goes both ways. And guess what? We all got the sunshine today, and we all got the cold today. Nobody got like a better platinum sunshine, right? Your sunshine didn't come out a little extra. Your breath didn't have like a silver lining in it. You got the same oxygen that we got the same cold air, right? So the respect issue, we all have that same playing ground. That particular part, we all got the same. So I can respect that. Okay.
And I just had a tangible example of it. And for me, if you take care of something, you're not worried about it, if you will, in the future, if you take care of it through time. So I had this plant. It's not the best picture. I apologize. But someone gave this to me about 8 years ago, early on when I moved to Texas. I've been taking care of it, watering it. I make sure it gets sunlight. I actually sit it outside sometimes when it has better sunlight and better weather. But I take care of it. I end up with the pandemic. I was able to go to my mom's house for almost 3 months in Michigan. So no one was going to be in my house. So I bought water globes to make sure, again, I can take care of this plant that I've been taking care of for these last 8 years. I actually put water globes in it to see, okay, how many water globes do I need to have in it per month? How much water does it have? How is the plant going to respond? And so this is after 1 month of the plant being with water globes. So you can see the little blue water globes in the back. And the leaves were starting to lay. So I kind of understood what was going to happen at the end of the 3 months. When I came back in town at the end of 3 months, all the leaves were laying on the ground. They were green, but they were all laying on the ground. So what I did is I just cut all the leaves off. I could have probably watered it and had the leaves stand back up, but because I had been taking care of that plant for 8 years and I know how this plant responds and I know what's gonna happen, I just cut the leaves off. And this is a picture from a week ago, and it's actually 3 days ago. And the leaves are already, I have more leaves that's already come out and opened up. And the point behind it was I've been taking care of this plant, so I knew that it was gonna survive, it's gonna make it. And I'm not gonna have this session probably next year, but in a year from now, I would love to be able to show you how it's gonna look just as strong as it did before. And I feel like that's with relationships as well. If you're watering it and you're taking care of it, it will stand the test of time.
Okay, so what are some strategies? So when we were planning this, one of the things that we really wanted to do was get a list of names and who was going to come to our workshop and call you ahead of time. I cannot stress to you how calling someone ahead of time, just saying, hi, thank you for you're in my class. Thank you that you're here. I just want to know, do you have the hotspots that you need? Is your internet working? Were you able to pick up your Chromebooks? All of those things. And just saying, hi, how are you doing? And just doing a check-in, and I'm introducing myself to you. I'm going to tell you, I've been doing this for 16 years. And when I left New York, I had a caseload of 75. I came to Texas, everything's big in Texas. So I went from 75 to 150. And I call every kid and every parent before the first week of school or within that first week. So every parent gets a contact with me, they know me, and I call them. And so I'm going to say it from our perspective from programs.
Yeah, and so just even having an out of school time program, I do the same thing. We had our virtual program. We actually met with all the students and their parents one-on-one before the program started. It was only 40, but still we took 45 minutes to be able to contact each of the different students to make the connection beforehand. I had a coworker, he had a hackathon, and he said he added a day onto his hackathon to make sure that he could spend half a day just getting to know the participants before the hackathon started. And he said, and this is probably like his 5th hackathon, he said this was one of the most successful ones, and he knows it's because he did that relationship building ahead of time.
Right.
So it can be done in class and it can be done outside of normal school time.
Exactly. And the other thing is greeting people. I greet my kids every day. So it's virtual time. We can't social distance, but we can do elbow bumps. We can do air high fives. Point to greet them every day, good morning, even virtually. So we're remote, we're hybrid right now. So some in class, some are remote, even every day. Well, just like you came in today and I greeted you this morning, I greet them every day. Good morning, good morning. If they pop in late, I try to do my best while I'm teaching to also just remind them good morning in the chat, or if we go into a breakout room, to go to them first because I wasn't able to greet them right when they popped in, just to say good morning and how you feeling today.
And I would say greeting is definitely different for me. I think it's also personality driven different for me. I'm definitely more, like I say, reserved. And yes, I greet students. Yes, I make sure, if anything, I make sure I use their name. I make sure even when we hire staff, as far as counselors, I hire people who are extroverts because I know that that is very necessary. And I need someone who I can say is like a firecracker. If that person can be the firecracker, then that's perfect. They're going to go around and they're going to get everybody hyped up. But I greet students in my own way. And that's more so getting to know their names, getting to know the background. I may ask them about their siblings, their parents, or the things that they're interested in. But even though we have an out of school time program that may be only 1 week long, if our program starts on a Sunday and it ends on a Saturday, we make sure that we know all of the students' names. So by Tuesday, everyone needs to know the students' names. I always say to the counselors, it is unacceptable for them to tell me they don't know the students' names by Wednesday, just because the name is going to make such a difference. And just to add a little bit to that, of making sure that you're conscious of the different backgrounds. So students that we have coming to our program attend church. So our programs start on Sunday. We have them start on Sunday afternoon so that they don't have to pick between coming to camp or going to church. We also look on the schedule of when is Ramadan to make sure that we know, like, we'll either start the camp after Ramadan if we can, or we have to make allowances that, okay, we have a student that won't be able to eat during the day. How are we making sure we're able to support that student through this process until, you know, they're able to eat either at sundown, or what do they need to do? Do they need a time in an area where they can go pray? Make sure that you're considering your students and their background. I feel like that also adds with the relationship building, in addition to just the names and the greetings and everything else.
Right. And so with the names thing, I can't stress that enough. Just for me being in education for 16 years, and even if you have a smaller program, you know, having the name tags, but having kids, that helps you understand their name. And only why I'm going to tell you this, I've had teachers, and it's so sad, like I want to cry, that we're 3 months into the school year and they don't know the kids' names. I'm like, it's 90 days. You don't know their name. And then they go, well, they don't respect me. I probably wouldn't respect you either. You don't know my name. I've been showing up for 90 days. And the name is important. I know a lot of people are like, well, you really think that? I cannot stress enough. The teachers who know their students' names, or people that I know that know the students of people they work with, compared to the people who are still going around, who are you again? What are you? There's a different respect level in that. There is such a different respect level, and people do not feel that you know them or that you care about them because you didn't take the time just to know something simple as their name, right? So I just wanted to, just like we had Baylin, I wanted to make sure she's Bold Baylin. I want to know her name. You know, I want to be able to know Senior Cheryl. I want to be able to know that name. And we gave the word associations because if you're hard with names, those are ways that you can try to figure out what's the best way for me to learn names. And I might not know, remember Dawn, but I'm like, oh my gosh, she said she was delightful. She said she was delightful. So then that might bridge a spark. Listening to feedback and input, let me go on to that. I'm going to tell you, this has helped me. If you know anything about Restorative Circles by Bob Costello, if you read that book, it just talks about the power of a circle. And we do, one thing I do every 6 weeks with my students, even online, I do something called the Truth Circle. And we sit in a circle and they just give me feedback. I am an ENFP, like I told you at the beginning. And one of the things they have to do, they have to tell me something that they like about we do in class. So they give me something that they like and they tell me why. I'm taking note of that because I want to keep doing the things that they like. All right. The other thing they have to do is tell me something that they do not like. So they tell me something that they do not like. And once they tell me that it's something that they do not like, they can't just complain about it. They have to give me a solution or something for us, for me to think about to do it differently, right? So if they don't like something, okay, that's great. Why is it that you didn't like it? And then if they give me some solution, that gives me a little opening right there to kind of figure out how to change it or curtail it to something that they will have interest with. And that leads into taking risks. All I got to tell you, you build relationships with kids. I'm going to tell you, I've had students who, I'll never do STEM. I hate math. I build relationships with my students to the point that they're in some type of camp. Either they're at TAC or they're at Code, the Code, Dawn always tells me.
Code to College.
Code to College. They are doing summer jobs. They are doing breakout sessions, all because I have that relationship with them. And they trust me enough to believe in themselves that they can do it. So they have that relationship with me that they like, okay, if Miss Allen says I can do this, I am going to try it. And if they try to sneak out, I have relationships with the parents where I can call and say, hey, I think this is a really great program for them. And then the parents will make sure that they take that risk.
Yeah, and remember that just because they may not originally seem interested, they may ultimately fall into it. I give the example, we had a student, we actually had an article on with TAC, and she came in her 10th grade year. She was actually interested in government, came to our summer camp, that was focused on coding, just to get away for the summer and to do something because it was free. She got accepted, came to the program. She said she had no idea what people were talking about. She ended up coming back the next year because, of course, we send emails out. She came back the next year for our cybersecurity camp, and you don't have to have any coding experience or anything for that camp. We're more so exposing you to cybersecurity and a little bit of coding. Fell in love with coding. That was her 11th grade year. She, this year in August, started at UT Austin as a computer science major. Again, she'll even tell you she had zero interest in coding, but and even the first time she didn't even like it. She tried it again and absolutely liked it. So I always say the whys aren't, it's important for me to understand so then I know how to relate to you, but it's not for me to like, disapprove or anything else. I have a lot of students, depending on your background, where their parents made them come to the camp and then they end up liking it. I say all the time, my mom made me do certain things where I'm like, I absolutely love it. She actually had my best interest out for me that I was too young to realize. And so sometimes the why, again, you may not agree with it, but just know that in the end, it may have a great outcome. And again, allowing them to have that risk and everything else. And one last thing I wanted to add to what Comical Carla said was making sure that when we give input, it's something that we can live with. So I've seen people before say, oh, okay, students, what do you want to do? And they're like, oh, we want to do nothing. And then they're mad because the students chose nothing, but give them choices of, okay, do you want to go outside first? Or do you want to eat lunch first? You know, give them a choice that you can live with as opposed to just trying to be their friend and make everything happy. Because in the end, you may be unhappy and they may not ever learn or get what they really need from it. I don't know if you read the quote from.
No, you can do that for us, please. Yes.
Right. Possibly did that. And so Peter Block says that we must establish a personal connection with each other, the connection before content. Without relatedness, no work can occur. And I would say that's with anything, even with our summer camps, we spend at least the first half of the day getting to know the student. It should not be about, what do you know? Here's this. We want you to be prepared for that. Just spend at least half a day getting to know who the students really are. And here we want to give a little impact or some of our numbers at our Code Attack program. So at TAC, in the past, when we had in-person camps, we had 3 in-person camps. They were residential, completely free. We had our Code Attack robotics camp, and it was for students with little to no coding experience or knowledge. Usually for recruitment, we actually go into math classes, science classes, and English classes. We don't even go into technology classes because we're trying to get students who may not know about it, and we want to go into classes where everybody has to take the courses, because we know if everybody has to take it, then they can self-decide if this is for them or not. We then have a Code Attack Connected camp. So if you've already come to robotics, you can come to Connected, because it's like our second level of robotics. So you already have a little coding experience with our Connected camp. So then we'll get students who already, again, have coding experience who may not have attended a previous camp or came to our robotics camp. And then we have our Code Attack cybersecurity camp. And that's for students, whether you have coding experience or not, it's more of exposing you to cybersecurity. With our program, we've had 361 students come through. We've been around since 2015 for our summer camps. We've had 44% of the 361 have been females, 41% of the students have been on free or reduced lunch, and 27% of those students are first generation. So looking at our numbers for our specifically for our URM, we're looking at Black and Hispanic students. We have for TAC, of the 361 students, 56% of them go into STEM. This is against the National Center for Education Statistics. And then for women, 68% of the women that attend our programs go into STEM. And then you see how it breaks down to computer science and engineering. It is a little bit different because sometimes you can be in computer science and be in engineering group, and sometimes it's separate. So that's why we laid it out for you to see. And then the graph to the right is just to give another view of how our numbers look as far as URM, again, Black and Hispanic, going into STEM, computer science and engineering, and then women.
Okay, so like we said before, we have our success criteria. So at this moment, we want you to take just a few seconds and look at choice 1, choice 2, and choice 3. And we want you to type in the chat which number you feel that you can answer. If you can answer all 3, type all 3, 1, 2, 3. And if you know, hey, I can really answer 2, 2, I can answer 2. So take a look at those choices and let us know that. All right. So I know we have, we're almost out of time at the time. So we left our emails here for you. If you want to stay back, and we have a survey that's in the chat. We wanted to ask you some questions, but we see that we're a little over time, and I know some of you probably want to go to another workshop. Those are here. If you do have any questions, unmute your mic and ask us, and we can answer for them right now if you like. And we thank you really so much for joining us. And please fill out the survey so that we know how to serve you guys better in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely for coming and listening and participating. Definitely participating.
Yeah, thank you so much for honoring our norms. You are welcome. Thank you.
Any questions? I know the next session starts at 11:45. Our session ended at 11:30, but the next session is 11:45.
You said, what did you say again?
Our session ends at 11:30, but the next session starts at 11:45. So there was a break, so everyone could have like a 15-minute break if they need it.
Oh, okay. So that's good.
So that's why I was thinking if anybody
Any
had
questions,
any questions.
and if
Yeah,
they're filling out the survey, that's great.
yeah,
Thank you.
definitely appreciative. I'm gonna save the chat. And I made sure I hit record earlier.
Okay. We could stop recording now, right? Thank you, Susan.
Yeah.
Bye.
That video. Nope, I stopped my own
Drop
personal
off.
video.
I want to drop off, but I just want to thank you